Well, just when you think the bowlers have done all right, four balls come around towards the end and spoil figures and just change the mood and the momentum as Mumbai Indians go past 200 after winning the toss and batting first in the first afternoon affair at Sharjah in this year's tournament. What kind of score is 208 for 5? It's still the lowest first inning score at Sharjah in the four games that we've seen so far. Let's see what Tom Moody makes of it on Whirlpool presents ESPN Dragon for T20 timeout powered by Dell. Tom, how is 208 for 5 looking for you?
Par score, and that sounds ridiculous, really. When you're thinking of a score over 200 and you're saying it's a par score, but I think Sharjah, smaller ground, flat wicket. I think Sunrisers were on track to actually, at the turn of the innings, looking like they were, going to be just a fraction in front of the game. But just as you said, those last four balls really was a dagger in the back for Sunrisers as they go into the dressing room, and that's that sort of those small things, that momentum that you thought you had is suddenly stolen from you with the last four balls is a significant thing, because a lot of the players probably had in their head sub 200. Now it's over 200.
Let's talk about the good side, though. Sandeep Sharma, Natarajan, Sandeep coming back for Bhuvaneshwar. My God, Natarajan seems to bowl the Yorker at will.
Yeah, look, he's bowled really well. There was a interesting statistic that came up during that coverage with his number of Yorkers that he's bowled in comparison to other bowlers in the tournament. He's bowled more than double the amount of Yorkers so far in the tournament ahead of everyone else. And that is just, to me, smart bowling. That's what you call defensive bowling, and he's done it very well. He bowled well in this innings, again, using his angle as a left armer to the right-handers and also getting it right up into that block hole. So, and out of the 24 balls that he bowled, 11 were dot balls, which at a venue like Sharjah is a great achievement.
Yeah, well done, Natarajan, and well done, Rashid Khan. Just as we look and break that innings down, Tom, you called for 30 boundaries if that was the Mumbai Indians plan. Krunal Pandya makes sure they get to 29. So 144 runs came of 29 deliveries in that innings, and 91 balls then yielded 64. Was there an impression that perhaps if Mumbai were really in their zone, they could have maximized this to a score beyond 220?
Without a doubt. If they're in the zone, they're looking at 240. They didn't hit anywhere near the number of sixes that we would normally expect Mumbai to do. They've got the personnel, probably more so than any side in the competition, that have got the six hitting ability. But you've got to give credit to Sunrisers. Their defensive skills were very, very good. We've seen the early parts of this IPL where the bowlers' defensive skills have been a little bit sort of wanting, but it just goes to show, a few games under the belt, the bowlers have got a little bit more time out in the middle. They're just starting to find their range, and I thought the Sunrisers actually defended very well. We've talked about the last four balls of the innings, which slightly put a dampener on it, but take that aside, as we talked about, that 30 boundary plus mark, there's four, they were only on, with four balls to go, they're only on 25 boundaries, which is really on the low side for a venue like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it fair to say, from the games that we have seen at Sharjah, that this is the first team that actually came with a well-thought bowling plan? Yes, they may have conceded 200 plus, but they actually came with a plan for pretty much every phase of that innings.
Yeah, I think every team goes to the venue with a plan. There's no question. It's just whether you execute it or not. That's the challenge. And there's many different variables to that. You can have a element of luck with your execution. You can get a full toss hit straight down deep mid-off's throat, or it can go out the ground. So there's there is a little bit of luck element. But I thought that Sunrisers were planned, and they executed the plan. That's the most important thing, is the execution. The talk is good, the execution is better. It's important you talk about it, but it's even more important that you put that talk into action and get it right.
I don't know how much Mumbai would have planned for Natarajan when you're facing a bowling lineup that has Rashid Khan and Sandeep Sharma, who has a good record against Rohit Sharma, which only improved today. But when you've got a guy who's bowling the Yorkers at will and keeping Pandya and Pollard quiet, you just take your hat off and say, well done? Or is there a way to counter someone who's predictably just bowling Yorkers?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. A lot of batsmen we've seen, there's a bit of a trend over the last 12 to 24 months where a lot of batsmen get really deep in their crease. So they take a back and a cross movement deep in their crease, to the point where we saw in a previous match Hardik Pandya actually hitting his own stumps. He was that deep in the crease. When you have a bowler like Natarajan that is perfected his length with the Yorker in the crease, I would encourage the batsman to go the other way. Bat out of your crease by a foot or two. So what you're doing is you're challenging his motor skills. He has practiced getting the ball on the crease line. So what you're doing is saying, well, okay, well, I know you've practiced that Yorker and you've, had targets, whether they be bowling cones or whatever it might be at the crease level just to practice that Yorker length. I'm going to take that Yorker length away. And if you bowl that same length, it's going to be a low full toss to me, and I'll be able to hit that, as we saw Pollard hit a low full toss for 6 I think it was in the second last over. So, there's different ways you can counteract. It's not only going deep in your crease, but you can also come out of your crease and bat a foot, 2 foot, out of your crease. And it's not like Natarajan's bowling 150 clicks. Yeah. He's bowling mid 130, so you can afford to come down the wicket.
All right. Credit to Natarajan. Gives you a reason why he started this season. If you were expecting other seamers to start ahead of him, probably something the Sunrisers did see of Natarajan in the nets. Now we go to the start for Mumbai. We see this sometimes, don't we, Tom? And very often for a team as successful as Mumbai, they can lose a couple of wickets quickly. Can you at times get seduced by the notion of Sharjah that, everything's going to work for me today? And Rohit Sharma just nicks one short and wide, and Surya Yadav hits one that you think should go for a boundary and catch a short fine leg. Can you at times get a little complacent when you're playing at a venue like Sharjah?
You can get a little disappointed. I can tell you that. As a batsman, you'd be kicking yourself if you miss out lining up, because each team has got 3 games in Sharjah. Yeah. You can guarantee every team, the top order, particularly the top 4 batsmen, would have been looking at the game, looking at the opposition they're playing against at Sharjah and thinking, right, okay, there's my chance to get a T20 100 if I get myself in. So you'd be kicking yourself. But what can happen at times when you're playing in a very predictable and friendly environment like Sharjah is you can end up trying to hit the ball too hard. So you end up sort of just losing your shape, and your head is just slightly off balance. Therefore, you're not getting the timing that you would normally get when you have that nice rhythm to your game. So one thing that is important from a batting point of view is not trying to overhit the ball, because this day and age, with the way that the bats are produced, the way that a lot of the players are playing, you just have to hold a nice disciplined shape to your shot and look to hit it about 80%, not 100%. And if you're hitting at 80, it's still going 20 yards over the boundary. And particularly in Sharjah, it's comfortably going over the boundary.
Yeah, that matchup that you actually pointed out was true. You said it came from memory, but it was right. Sandeep Sharma against Rohit Sharma. I'd love to know what from what you know of what goes through a bowler's mind when you throw these numbers at him. You've got a great record against Rohit Sharma, Sandeep. You're going to have a crack at him. And sometimes you don't even need to bowl a great ball to actually get him. These matchups tend to work often. So how much of this is just mind games, and how much of this actually motivates a bowler when he knows he's got a good record against a batsman, even if it is Rohit Sharma?
Well, the delivery of that message is really important. One thing you don't say is you've got a good record against him. So suddenly you're putting pressure on him. So, you're better off just ignoring the fact that he has got a good record, even though he might know it, but don't remind him of it. What you do is you just encourage the bowler to think through carefully who it is he's bowling against and what his particular plans are, and just say, look, we think it's probably ideal for you to take the new ball up against both Quinton de Kock and Rohit Sharma, knowing very well why you're doing it, but don't put additional pressure on him, because if he suddenly thinks, oh gosh, okay, well, they're expecting me to get one of the best T20 players out, and they're throwing me the ball and I'm just come back into the side, it's a huge pressure to throw on a player. So you're better off just, working around it and making sure the pieces are in place to take advantage of those matchups.
All right. Well, there are 8 overs of spin that I want to talk to you about. Let's start with the 4 overs of Rashid Khan optimum use of him and smart from Mumbai to first send Pandya and then Pollard and then see out Rashid Khan, even if it was the 16th over at the time?
Yeah, look, I was a little bit surprised how overcautious they were against Rashid Khan. He only got hit for 2 boundaries in his 4 overs. Again, bowling exceptionally well, but I would have liked to have seen Mumbai try to put him under more pressure. At the end of the day, they're playing at a venue that even their mishits are going to go for 4 or 6.
Yes.
To me, Rashid Khan walking away with 1 for 22 off his 4 overs is not a good enough return from Mumbai's point of view. It's an outstanding return from Sunrisers and Rashid, but it's not good enough. Rashid Khan needed to go for a minimum of 30 at that venue.
All right, fair enough. And the other 4 overs of spin came from Abdul Samad and surprise, Kane Williamson. Now, no use of Abhishek Sharma. You'd think because of the 2 left-handers, but at times the teams overdo this, Tom. Would you still like to see Abhishek Sharma have a bowl?
Yeah, I'd be a little bit cautious at a venue like Sharjah purely because just adding up the matchup, favouritism to left arm spin to left hand bat, but also at a small venue, and one particular side of the ground was particularly small. I think you just need to take your medicine and walk away from that situation. If it was a bigger ground, yes, you can overthink it, but I think at a venue like that, I think it was probably the right move to avoid that situation where you could get a blowout over where it goes for 20 plus.
That having been said, he rode his luck, Quinton de Kock, but now everyone in the Mumbai Indians top orders at least got a score. That's a significant thing for Mumbai, at least, regardless of the result. Quinton de Kock is back among some runs.
That's a very important thing for Mumbai, and there's no surprise to see them persevere with him in this particular game, knowing that everything was going to be in favour for him to recapture some form. Good wicket, small boundaries. So, it's a win for Mumbai. They've got all of their top 6 firing in form. Quinton de Kock's an important player for them because he just gives you that point of difference at the top of the order and obviously holds down that keeping position.
All right, 208. Like I said, it is the lowest first inning score at Sharjah, but something gives you the impression that if there's any lineup that can make that look more, it's Mumbai's. They've got 3 out-and-out international seamers. Are you expecting them to make this hard for Sunrisers?
Yeah, it will be difficult. They've got experienced pace bowling there, and you can guarantee that Mahalajal Wardner, coach of Mumbai, and Rohit Sharma would have really emphasised the importance of Yorkers. So I think if we haven't seen Mumbai execute their Yorkers up to this point, you can guarantee the likes of Bumrah, Trent Bolt, and also Pattinson really do their best to try to get it right tonight. Because if they do get it right, they've certainly got a big enough score.
Bolt and Pattinson seem to have new ball responsibilities, but we've had this debate time and time again, especially against Sunrisers. Do you want Bumrah first up, or at least in the first 2 or 3 overs, to bowl at Warner and Bairstow?
Who are the 2 most important wickets?
Warner and Bairstow.
So I would ask the question to anyone, who is the person most likely to dislodge Warner and Bairstow in that bowling attack? And to me, the 2 most likely is Trent Bolt and Jasprit Bumrah.
All right, point made. And finally, Mumbai's bowling options, exactly 5 if you don't count Kieron Pollard. Don't know if Hardik Pandya is fit and able to bowl. That'll be a surprise when it does happen, unless they reveal it beforehand. But would you like to see a bit of Pollard as well, mixing things up, or 4 overs from Krunal Pandya could be a real challenger?
Yeah, I'd like to see Pollard bowl. He bowled a lot in the CPL and bowled effectively. I think he's hugely underused at times. I know that over recent years he's had some knee injuries, which has prevented him to bowl as much as he would have liked, and certainly teams that he's played in would have liked. But he has been bowling for the Knight Riders in the CPL. There's no reason why he can't bowl at least a couple of overs, and it just gives Rohit Sharma a little bit of flexibility and variety, because he's very different. He's only just medium pace, even though that he's a man mountain, but he's very medium pace. He's very smart. He reads the game very well. So I think it's definitely worth getting 2 overs in reasonably early, which gives him flexibility as the second 10 overs unfolds.
Yeah, he does what you want, right? Those subtle variations. He can bowl from 3 feet behind the umpire or from any part, right arm over or around. What's the gut feeling saying, Tom? Sunrisers to chase this or Mumbai to defend it?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not sitting on the fence here, but I reckon this is a line ball game. I really do think it's a line ball game, because when I was watching that innings unfold, when you've got class batsmen like your likes of Warner, Bairstow and Williamson and Manish Pandey in your top four, those type of players can play proper cricket shots and really hurt you at a venue like this. You know, they're not having to hit long bombs where they're having to clear a 75-metre boundary. They're just playing proper cricket shots, and they can really hurt you at this venue.
Right. Top four in good nick. 5 and 6 have won them a game last time around. This should be a fascinating contest. Thank you, Tom Mooney. Let's pick up this chat at the end of the game on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. We'll also build up to the second game of the day between Punjab and Chennai. So do hope for your company. Then let's see how this one goes at Sharjah. Every game there has been quite a treat.